So, how do you think an organization insulates itself? Is that something they talked about in order to prevent it from being, either drifting or being taken over by people who are forcing it to move in a particular direction?
Um, well, in a lot of ways, if you want to keep something right wing, you have to have that uh, stronger hierarchy. One of the things that, and this kind of will go into third law there, but when you have when you start an organization, and that organization is started by an individual or maybe even a small group of people, any charity, any business, anything, and there's a very strong and hard vision, then it's fine. But then that has to, as the organization grows, you have to constantly keep reiterating the fact. One of the examples uh, that was brought up was, like, say, the Babylon Bee. Uh, the Babylon Bee is clearly a Christian right wing, the satire paper. Well, I guess paper is not the right word, but uh, that organization constantly is telling you exactly what they believe, what they think, and they don't ever stop doing that. And they say, no, we're going to do this, and if you don't like it, go somewhere else. And they will continue. If the when they stop doing that, then the Babylon Bee is done as the entity it is right
Okay. So,
now. Look at the Onion by
oh God,
comparison.
yeah.
The Onion. 15 years ago, I loved that. It was hilarious,
Hmm.
but it's not funny
Yeah,
anymore.
it's unwatchable and unreadable now. And I don't know. I think the Onion was probably closer to neutral, maybe like
Hmm.
maybe center libertarian, maybe. And yeah, so they just kind of lost their minds after a while, and you saw that with a lot of periodicals. Now, in some cases, uh, I don't know how well. Give you a good example. Like Cracked used to be a good thing to read, and
Right.
they completely lost their minds. How much of it do you think is people coming in from the left and saying, "Oh, this is a perfect vehicle. If we move it, we can use this medium to project our views through," and everyone who loved it before will just kind of like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the same thing. We're loving it." Or is it the owners kind of going, I think something's changing. The winds are going this way. Let's cash in on it. Let's move in the direction that the rest of everything's moving, so that we don't get left behind.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, I would think, yeah, to a certain extent, more left leaning people. But when you have, especially in organizations like that, like either Cracked or the Onion, these are creative type people, and they tend to be left leaning anyway. Um, so it's not too weird that things just kind of flow. I kind of don't think uh, people are even conscious of a lot of this. It
Okay.
just kind of it. Curtis Yarvin is uh, very popular for saying Cthulhu swims slowly, but he always swims left. And it's just the idea that it's just the natural tendency of things to go this way, unless there's some force to stop it. It just kind of happens. That things erode. Um, or there might be a certain amount of cashing things out, but probably a lot of these organizations, they weren't really strong in any particular. They wanted to make a funny magazine or
Yeah.
something. Amnesty International just wanted to, do what they do. Any of these groups, they started out doing anything, and still, if they're still kind of sort of doing it, okay, you know. They their mission was, if you're, especially if it's a non-religious or any secular mission, can be easily subverted, because why not?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so something more recent, and suddenly so, Project Veritas, in the middle
Right.
of a kind of a hostile takeover there. So that one actually looks a lot less drifty and a lot more pushy. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to push. Uh, oh, what's his name? Give me. Damn.
Why did you say that? Now that I forgot the guy's name. But yeah, the
Yeah, yeah,
Lindsay.
huh?
Is it Lindsay?
No,
No, I'm not thinking. I'm
but
thinking
yeah, my
Joe.
brain's off. But the thing is, this dude has been the face of the organization forever. His people go and do their hits, and then he hops in and does his thing. So he's been the face of the organization since its inception, and all of a sudden they oust him, or at least are trying to. I don't know if they'll. I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off or not. And I mean, in theory, I would think he could almost form a new organization and just basically take all the monetary support with him, because all the other people are complete non-entities in the organization. So now I was listening to some chatter where Tim Pool was talking about what he assumed happened. He goes, so one of the things that happens is you get these people that come in, they throw a lot of money at you, and then you end up putting like some of them on your board, where it's like, okay, yeah, they put so much money into this organization, they deserve a say so in what's going on. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're like, oh yeah, we're booting you out of here because yeah, we have a different idea in mind. And it's hard to imagine with what Veritas has been doing, what it's achieved. I mean, it's like the terror of the left right now. I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, it's at the point where it's practically meta, where you have the person sitting there on the secret camera going, God, I hope you're not Project Veritas, because then I would really look stupid as I'm outing myself and everybody around me. And so, I mean, it's well known, and it's like, yeah, and since you're a beautiful woman, it's like I'm on truth serum, so here I go. Blah!
Yeah, I've said that a couple of times where I'm like, I'm dying to know what these people behind the camera look like. I just really want to know.
Well, I
And
mean, on the woman's side, I mean, you throw a five in front of a geek, and you can get a geek to just spill their guts. I'm more curious on this last one, because I mean, that's one of the first ones I've seen where they had a guy as the sting, or I don't know if you can call a guy a honeypot or not, but um, so I'd be really curious to see what that guy looked like, because that would tell me what the bar is for fishing off out of the other pond, but. Because I know
well,
guys who like women will fall for practically anything.
I mean, what I told you is, you have to be hot enough to where I am stupid and start talking, but not so hot that I'm like going, okay, clearly,
Hmm.
clearly, you give me that. Oh boy, I'm gonna date myself, but that chick from Battlestar Galactica. It's,
Mhm.
you set her in front of me. That okay, this is a setup.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah. No, it's funny because yeah, when I was uh, working in Korea with the Air Force, you get these like super hot nationals would come down, sit next to you, and they'd start sweet talking, and you're like, okay, look at me. I'm not buying a single word of this. You're just looking for a ticket home. And then you get
Mm.
somebody who's like a little bit more in my league. You're like, okay, this is plausible. I can see, I can buy the idea that you might find me attractive, but no, go go find yourself the quarterback. I'm not him. So
Yeah, you'll just leave almost immediately when we get back to the states. So, um,
Yeah, so that
I don't
one,
know.
yeah, that one's kind of interesting because, and I actually this for, in terms of looking at conquest laws, how this ultimately plays out will probably give us a lot of insight on how it fits in because, yeah, it's in progress. We don't know the full details yet, and we don't know if James Lindsay's going to be able to pull it off.
And but yeah, the so maybe this is the cabal of enemies.
Maybe.
Because you're right. I don't think Veritas is a thing without the front man. You know,
Hmm.
it's it's like Rick and Morty is not going to be a thing without Justin Roiland.
Yeah.
It's it's not going
So
to happen.
so in terms of like the hierarchy structure, does the organization require more or less a strong man in the position? Not even if they kind of like start stepping aside and not running things, but there to be kind of like the the philosophical sounding board when people are like, oh, let's try getting away with this. Oh, you can't because so and so still sitting there in the chair in the corner, and even though he's not running things, he still has such an influence over the organization that you have to run it through him first because if he says no, everybody who's actually running things will just say no. So did they get into the idea of a strong man and all like that?
Yeah, I mean, there has been that, and I can actually see that. You know, like even with organizations that are definitely not right wing, Apple. Steve Jobs was the guy. He ran it.
Mm-hmm.
He like literally, and he was a lunatic, but he also, he had a vision, and this is what's going to happen. And he constantly pounded that out, and that's what Apple did until he was no longer there. And that was a very different thing from any other person that, like Cook or anybody else that happened to be CEO of Apple. Um, that's not anybody's particular example. That's just one I thought of
Okay.
off the top of my head. Um, yeah, you have to have this reinforce and reinforced, or things just erode.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can think of two organizations that reversed course like that. One of them being the LP, Libertarian Party. They essentially had a counter revolution and swung back. I hate using the term left right with that, but I mean, they basically went from woke back to neutral. And another organization that did it was the NRA for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because okay, so 1990s and before, they were just absolutely useless. I mean, you'd walk up to them, and they'd say, "Hey, yeah, you gotta vote for Boomer Con number 3," and you're like, "Oh, yeah, it's fantastic." Do you realize that he's for this, all these things that you're against? Well, yeah, but we just gotta kind of go in line because it could be so much worse. And that's just the way it was, and it was just a laughing stock of an organization. Then, but the thing is there was a concerted takeover that started in the mid '70s, where all these at the low levels, these people who were very much very much adamant Second Amendment types just started taking over all the local chapters and just digging in. And then little by little, they worked themselves to the top to where the organization stopped writing gun control laws and actually started at least talking against them and occasionally actually fighting them. So you saw that, but
Mm-hmm.
of course now the NRA just imploded. But that was another. They had a strong man, but the strong man turned out to be. I hate to say the word. I don't want to say the G word. What's another word for someone who who basically is in there just for the money? He looted the organization basically.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway,
a thief.
there you go.
How's that? He's a
I'm
thief.
sorry. There's certain words that are just abused that I hate saying anymore.
Well, that particular word is funny. I mean, that refers to a very fly by night type of person.
Okay.
And I don't think it was a fly by night
Oh no,
issue there.
gosh, I think he was in there almost 20 years.
Yeah. So that was the long game.
Yeah.
um, uh, yeah, and I don't think the NRA is going to make it, which is too bad for the gun control people because that has been their boogeyman. And when the NRA is gone, they're going to find out that the NRA doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because
uh,
well, and that was well, not going too far offline here, but that was like let's forget this guy's. You ever listen to this guy named Tom Gresham?
no, I'm sorry.
He's kind of syrupy Southerner. He's had a radio show on forever, um, Gun Talk, and he's been around. But he's kind of interesting. He's one of those people who's very much full blown Second Amendment, but he knows how to kind of talk the talk. He knows how to not scare people. And for the longest time, he's like, yeah, NRA has problems, but you should probably join it, and blah blah blah. Then when it started blowing up, he tried. He said, "Well, we know things are going on, and I don't want to talk about stuff until we know it." And I was like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't be sending your money there anymore." But one of the things when he was like completely pro NRA, I actually called him up a couple of times and said, "Yeah, but you get kind of mad at these little grassroots organizations for taking positions that are completely out there that like you're saying, well, no one's going to go for that." Yeah, but if someone isn't out there enunciating those things, you're never going to go in that direction. If you would let the NRA do what it was doing back in the 1990s, we wouldn't be in the position we are now. It was all those little groups who essentially started making the NRA look like they were a wing of the Democratic Party after a while, to where they eventually had to kind of start moving in that direction. The window was shifting, and they had to catch up with it if they're going to expect to keep the money coming in.